What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure and like and subscribe as you tune into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on a recent interview I saw with Charles Oakley, and he was on the Art of Dialogue, and he was explaining the relationship that he had with Patrick Ewing when they played for the New York Knicks, and I think he said they played together for 10 years in New York, right? And I like Patrick. I like Patrick Ewing, and I like Charles Oakley as players. I've been following Patrick Ewing ever since he was at Georgetown University, and they had some really good teams up there at at Georgetown, and Pat was that dude. I also like Pat when he played in New York. I just thought that when Patrick Ewing played in New York, they ran into they ran into Michael Jordan, and they couldn't get past Michael Jordan. And the year that Michael Jordan didn't play, they went all the way. They got past. And I think, or did they lose to Indiana? I'm trying to think. Did they lose to Houston or Indiana? But anyway, they couldn't get past Michael Jordan. And so that was Patrick Ewing's problem in the NBA, in my opinion. But Charles Oakley described it a different way. He just thought that Patrick Ewing was a traitor. Basically was selfish and didn't really give his all. And I didn't see that. I just thought that no matter what Patrick Ewing did, he just wasn't better than Michael Jordan. He couldn't get his team past the Bulls, right? So I'm going to play what Charles Oakley said on the Art of Dialogue and come back and give my opinion about what I think about what Charles Oakley said. Also, Charles Oakley was he kind of seemed like he's holding a grudge because of that incident he had in Madison Square Garden, right? Where he got put out. He got escorted out of Madison Square Garden, and he was mad that Patrick Ewing didn't stand up for him or say anything. So I don't know. Patrick Ewing just seemed like a laid back kind of guy and wasn't really, you know, if he didn't know what was going on there or what happened, it's kind of hard to stand up for Charles Oakley, because Oak always ends something. You'll find yourself coming to his rescue every other day. So I just wanted to say that about that situation. But let me play what Charles Oakley had to say about Patrick Ewing and then come back and give my comments.
What was the issues you had with Patrick Ewing?
I ain't no really issue between me and Patrick. It's just like in my book, I'm just saying he didn't know how to. He wasn't a real leader. He didn't know how to bring things together, and and keep playing with him, playing with him. You see how all that not being this and that, and this will be your main guy. Got a little selfish, came in and he never stood up for nobody on the team. Never had nobody back. And I played with him for 10 years, and we probably went to dinner twice in New York in 10 years. And he didn't mingle with the guys on the team too much. But some guys can not mingle and get away with it. But I think that when you fighting every year to get to a point, this and that, some guys, like I said, some guys can catch the ball with one hand, some guys can't. Some guys need to practice more. We needed more from him. He never gave it to us. That's simple and a nut.
Well, let me speak on that right there, because I don't know, like when you say they went out to eat 2 times in 10 years, right? I don't know if Will Purdue and all those guys, if they and BJ Armstrong, I don't know if they hung out with Mike too much, like off the court. I don't really think so. I think that it was more so for Mike, probably a work relationship. Now I do know, because I've like other guys on the Chicago Bulls, Weddington, Purdue, and some of the other players, like the role players, they hung out more with each other than Mike did. Mike had more, probably had like different deals and stuff or appearances and stuff. And probably the same thing for Patrick Ewing. Like Patrick probably didn't have a lot of time to hang out with those guys. You know, like, and sometimes guys like Patrick Ewing or your franchise ball players, sometimes those guys work out a little bit more and have different engagements, more engagements than you know, these other guys. So I don't know if that was a determining factor though, but maybe, you know, maybe he's right.
Oh, and people like, why you need this and that? We needed more from him. You know, he every time his contract up, he got the money. Every time my contract up, we had to push and shove and you know, fight about it. You know, so yeah. I thought when I got to New York playing with him, we was gonna change everything around. But you know, you gotta have when you go to the fight, you gotta have the whole army with you. You know, you're gonna fight. You know, I think that he didn't fight like he fought in college. I didn't see that. I didn't see that toughness that he had in Georgetown in the NBA.
You think he's overrated?
All right, let me speak to like Patrick Ewing toughness. Number one, I don't think Patrick Ewing. If you look at Patrick Ewing during that time, and you look at Hakeem Olajuwon, you look at David Robinson. David Robinson won championships. You know, I don't think he was no tougher than Patrick Ewing. I don't think that what was Hakeem. I don't think he was like you know, like more imposing and tougher than Patrick Ewing. Then on top of that, you got to think, how tough do you want Patrick Ewing to be when you play with Anthony Mason and you got Charles Oakley and you got Charles Smith on your team? Like what? Like, you know, they got, and you had Harper. Was his name Dirk Harper? You got Dirk. You know, they had a pretty tough, gritty team in New York. Like, how much more? How tougher do your team had to be? You know, most teams don't even have a Charles Oakley. Like the Chicago Bulls had a Dennis Rodman, but they didn't have like a you know, anybody who considered like a tough guy. So I don't get that either. But
Overrated or not, but I mean, he got 20 and 10. I mean, 20 and 10 to get you paid. So you said overrated or underrated?
Overrated.
I mean, play on the dream team, so I'm trying to see who was he better than Akeem? Was he better than David Robinson? Was he in his era? so
and again, I don't think Patrick Ewing was overrated. Whether he was better than Dave Robinson, Patrick, and Dave Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon, that's not really the point. You know, like he was one of the best players in the league. That's why he was considered for that. You know, that's why they put him on that dream team. Personally, I like Patrick Ewing better than I like Dave Robinson. You know, as a player, I think Patrick Ewing is better. Now, is he better than Hakeem Olajuwon? No, and you know, and most people are not going to say that. You know, most people would agree that he wasn't better than Hakeem Olajuwon, right? But I mean, he deserved to be on there, in my opinion, on the dream team. So I don't think he was overrated at all.
like I said, back in our era, they said whoever had the best player, that's who always win the championship. And you look at it, that's how it happened. You know, we ran to Chicago, we could never get over the hump. But I think that, you know, from Pat Riley, Patrick, I think we was trying to beat the Bulls for the wrong thing. I think Pat Riley was more trying to beat Phil Jackson, and I think Michael Jordan was trying to Patrick Ewing was trying to beat Michael Jordan.
All right, let's address that, right? You want your best player to try, because that's what basketball comes down to. It comes down to matchup. Even in football, it comes down to matchup. Like your man on your side of the ball got to beat their man on their side of the ball. That's what it comes down to. So if Pat Riley wants to beat Phil Jackson, that's the mindset that you want Pat Riley to have. Remember, Pat Riley, he won like I don't know. I think it was 5 championships in Los Angeles with the Lakers before he went to the Knicks. Then he won you know, like another 3 while he was at Miami. Let me see. 2 LeBron James, 1 Dwayne Wade. Yeah, so Pat Riley he's sitting on at least 8 championships. So if anybody know where his focus should be, it should be Pat Riley. You know, so not Charles Oakley. And then on top of that, if Patrick Ewing is thinking, man, I gotta beat Mike. I gotta beat Mike. Mike is the head of the snake. Absolutely, that's what you want Patrick Ewing shooting for. So how in one breath you're gonna say that this guy, Patrick Ewing, he's not giving you enough. He not aggressive enough. He not tough enough. He's shooting for the top. He going at Mike. He trying to beat Michael Jordan. So yeah, I just disagree. You know, I just think that Mike just was so talented and was just so much better than, than everybody in the league. I do wish though that we had got a chance to see Mike go at Hakeem Olajuwon, right? Because Kenny Smith and everybody who played with those Rocket teams, even Sam Cassell, they said that they think that they would have beaten the Chicago Bulls. And I'm a Jordan fan, but I think, I do think that would have been tough for Mike to beat Hakeem Olajuwon, because nobody had an answer for Hakeem Olajuwon and nobody had an answer for Mike. That would have been tough. I wish, I wish we could have seen that. And like I said, some players think that, the Houston Rocket teams with Hakeem Olajuwon would have been the one team that could have, beat Mike and the Chicago Bulls. But yeah, man, I think Charles Oakley, man, I can't agree with anything he's saying about Patrick Ewing. I dig Pat. Pat gave it his all, just like Charles Barkley gave it his all. Just like Karl Malone gave it his all. Yeah, they was going up against Mike. Mike, is the GOAT. They was going up against Mike, kept a lot of great ball players from getting rings. So they was just going up against Mike. And you can't really hold that against Patrick Ewing, that Mike is the GOAT. So that's my, those are my thoughts on that situation, on Charles Oakley's comments. Y'all make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll check you all out in the next video. Peace.